Welcome back to another episode of the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Mudgear Hannibal Race Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Preparis. I got a guest with me on the line, though. Before we get to him, though, a quick words from this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by The Feed. If you're looking for endurance supplements, check out The Feed. I'm going to drop the link down in the show notes down below. Please check that out. A lot of great links down there, some discounts. Click through the Feed link, and you can shop for all your endurance supplements, muscle building supplements, sleep supplements, all that great stuff in the link down below. This episode of Strength and Speed is part of the OCR Report. OCR Report is the #1 news website for obstacle course racing, and we are one of the podcasts that is part of that larger enterprise. So if you're joining us for the first time, we are primarily an obstacle course racing focused podcast, but we recognize that fitness and learning complex skills is an old skill, even though obstacle course racing is relatively new. So we steal lessons from other aspects, other sports. And with me today, I have my partner in crime, the other half of the best command team ever, Juan Ortiz. Juan, welcome.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Good. It's going good. So we brought Juan on, again, to kind of get that outside perspective of learning complex skills. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, used to be the non-commissioned officer in charge of combatives program at First ID, combat veteran, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think I said that already. Master combatives army trainer. And then on top of that is a competitive pistol shooter. What else did I miss?
It's right on point. Right on point. Sounds
Right
good to
up.
me.
So we've talked about combatives before on this podcast. We've talked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with John Jordan. We're going to focus mainly on the shooting aspect today. So first of all, for those who don't know, tell us what is competitive shooting, what are the different organizations, what are the different categories, etc.
So competitive shooting, there's various organizations. The ones most familiar to me are USPSA and IDPA. These two associations, or you can call them leagues if you want. Although they have very similar traits, they're slightly different in many ways. So, for example, USPSA, which is the one I'm most familiar with, United States Practical Shooting Association, their focus is hit factor. So, shooting while moving as fast as you can, and getting the most amount of points on that target as you can while moving. Different to IDPA, where it's more of a defensive shooting type scenario. So when you are competing in IDPA, for example, different to USPSA. USPSA, I can be moving and shooting, and they're not really worried about me taking cover, me reloading behind a barricade or nothing like that. On IDPA, you have to reload behind a barrier. They're really focused on precision, so it makes it a bit slower to where you have to slow down to get that precise shot with the pistol. They're very harsh on their point system, so they have basically let's say 4 zones. They have the 0 zone, 3 zones. Sorry, they have the 0 zone, the 1 zone, and the 3 zone. The 1 and 3. What it basically means is if I don't hit 0 and I hit a 1 zone, that adds 1 second to my time, which you don't want. In USPSA, the difference is that I can move and shoot, right? And maybe hit that Charlie, which is only going to give me 3 points, or Delta, which is only going to give me 1 point. But if I move fast and I'm able to accumulate a large amount of points in that amount of time that I was moving, that gets divided by the time gets divided by the amount of points, and it gives me a hit factor. The higher the hit factor, that means the better job I did on the lane. The other thing is on IDPA, right? Because it's defensive oriented, they don't have like a fault line. They have certain designated shooting areas that you have to get to shoot. In USPSA, I can move around the stage or the layout, for example, and shoot as I see the target. In IDPA, because it's scenario based and it's really heavily focused on defensive shooting, I have to shoot from a designated target because that's the scenario. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I think that gives people a pretty good idea for if someone is completely clueless, this is the type of stuff we're seeing. Like if you follow Keanu Reeves, he posts videos of him like shooting and moving and like moving behind barricades. This is what we're talking. Is this correct?
Hmm. Correct.
Generally. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Correct.
if people are completely confused, that's what it looks like. It's not what I would describe as like Olympic shooting, which is like the guy you're just standing there and clays are flying out, or you're shooting, or
Oh, no, no. Here
you
you're completely mobile.
yeah. Or like like the air rifle or the rifle at the Olympics where the guy's like stationary, standing still. He's wearing like a t-shirt and yeah, this is like tactical application movement, a little more realistic than kind of little more movement. Takes a little more fitness than what I'd say the normal shooting community would be used to.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have to be able to move and shoot on the USPSA side. You have to be able to move and shoot quickly. On the IDPA side, you have to be able to precisely hit your targets from the designated area, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. Also, on the USPSA side, which is the side I compete on, it's an open rig, meaning that I don't have any garments covering my firearm. I don't have any garments covering my magazines or my equipment. On the IDPA side, which is the defensive side, you're wearing a garment that's covering your firearm. So when the timer starts, you have to unconceal your or take the garment off the firearm, or uncover your firearm, come out of the concealment, and then start working the scenario based on the firing positions they designated for that scenario. So where on USPSA, like I just mentioned a second ago, where it's uncovered, I just shoot the targets as I see them. As long as I'm within the fault lines, you move within that fault area, you're good. You just shoot them as you see them. So they have their applications. There's a lot of I would say it's a lot of sometimes criticism from the TAC world to the competitive world. A lot of TAC guys lean more to the IDPA side because it's defensive.
Mm.
A lot of tech guys criticize the USPSA side of the house because there's a lot of things that do not apply to attack scenario. For example, in USPSA, like I just mentioned, there's a lot of moments where you're exposed moving, right, to shoot different targets because your priority is just to hit the target and accumulate points and as fast as possible. So where the TAC guys are more lean more to the IDPA because you cannot expose your body unless you're engaged in the target, or you cannot expose your body to a target that you haven't engaged, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are
This
they?
this
Are
feels
there?
like feels like the typical situation we find in like all combatives, all where it's like, all right,
Yep.
you make a rule set, people will start training towards that rule set, and then it waters down the practicality of it in like a real life situation. But at the same time, if you give people a goal and give them rules and give them a competition, it creates a higher level of training. So you can take a lot of that skill and bring it over as long as you don't bring over the bad habits. So it's like, I feel like I've seen it. You're also a judo brown belt. I forgot to mention. I feel like you see that in judo. You feel that in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You see that in the combatives world, shooting, even knife, like the blade work, some of the blade systems. It's just so common.
Yes, and I approach the sport and as a martial art. I'll explain myself. It doesn't matter what martial art you practice, as long as you put the time into that martial art, you're gonna get something out of it. You're gonna specialize in something. The thing with USPSA or IDPA, it doesn't matter which league you want to participate in or practice in, you're gonna get something out of it. Now, not everything applies, right? Not everything applies. Of course, in a real combat scenario, I would never expose my body the way I would expose my body in a USPSA competition. There's nobody shooting back at me, right? I'm just trying to accumulate points and shoot fast as I can.
Right.
In a real life scenario, which is what or a competition that focuses in real life scenarios like IDPA, right? Of course, you'll be a lot more cognizant of that. when you're competing. Now, do things transfer? Yes. Target acquisition or faster target acquisition, trigger control, uh, certain aspects of the footwork can transfer, right? Draw, your grips, the way you maneuver the weapon while or the firearm while you're moving. Certain things will transfer over. Not everything transfers, but a lot of things do, and they will make you a better shooter. I know plenty of guys that are defensive shooters that just practice defensive scenarios on their own time that have jumped over to the competitive world. And I know a lot of military guys, a lot from your old buddies like Rangers and Green Berets, and even SEALs that have hopped over to the competition sides because they see the benefits of that world that can transfer to theirs.
Yeah.
There's always going to be the argument, I would never do this, I would never do that. At the end of the day, it's just like jiu-jitsu or judo or any martial art you practice. The more time you put on the mat, the better you're going to get. The more time you get behind the gun, the better you're going to get. It's simple math.
Yeah, that's actually you kind of led into my next question. I was going to ask, since you're in the Army and you've spent time running and stuff and physical fitness, I was going to ask, what lessons do you think apply from learning a complex skill like drawing a gun and firing quickly and effectively and on target apply to just basically learning any complex skill?
Well, there's the skill of drawing the gun alone, right? And under a timer, and a lot of people watching you. That alone puts a good amount of stress on you. It's not the level of stress that you would have in a combat scenario, but it's a good amount of stress, and it teaches you a lot of things that sometimes don't even have to do with shooting. For example, when you're competing in front of a crowd and the crowd that you're competing in front of have the same skill that you have, right? Now the pressure's on because like you want to be competitive, you want to look good, you want to perform well. That transfers over to the military, for example, or to anybody who works with crowds. For example, as a combative instructor, you are working with a crowd every day. You have to be able to teach techniques and voice those techniques to a large crowd. And not only that, if you're crowd shy, it's going to help you develop that experience, develop that ability to be in front of crowds and not be shy and really get your point across, if that makes sense. So I think the competition, regardless of what competition, shooting, jiu-jitsu, name it, fill in the blank. Regardless of what competition you do, if you're competing at a certain level, it's always going to transfer and make you better at whatever you do on a daily basis.
I like
especially
it.
under pressure.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it spot on. The pressure I feel when I line up to an obstacle course race is the same pressure I feel when speaking in front of a crowd, or same pressure I feel when, having to fight someone in combatives, sparring or whatever. It it crosses over. If you can handle pressure, you can handle pressure. And while if you take someone who's comfortable in one scenario and put them into a different scenario, will it be slightly different? Yes, but it's not one-to-one transfer, but it's not 0 to 0, right? Like that ability to handle pressure still transfers over. Now,
Yeah.
when you're practicing, and previously you'd mentioned just time on trigger and repetition, and that that speaks to me as far as obstacle course racing and training for endurance. I was not good at endurance for probably about a decade before I started getting good. Like it felt like I was just kind of mediocre, and I think some people would say like, "Oh, you're wasting your time." And then after like a decade, things just started lining up, and I found obstacle course racing, and just started having a lot of success. And it wouldn't have been there, if I would have looked at my first marathon time and been like, uh, is this a good hobby to pursue to make money or to get accomplishments in? I'd be like, no, probably not, because I did not do well at the Marine Corps Marathon back in 2003. So I finished, but it was a very painful day. Talk to me about right there's a lot of parts to shooting and moving and firing. Talk to me about how you train for this.
So I've been shooting seriously since I want to say like dedicated and really seriously since 2018, mid 2018. Initially, I would just go out there and burn rounds and not even really not know what I was doing. So I started doing research of actual shooters, both on the military side and the competitive side. Mostly on the military side at first, and then I started like combining both. Um, on my free time, a range day would look like 2 or 3 hours out there in the range, just repeating the same process. At the beginning was just draws. I wanted to get good, not just good and confident and proficient, mostly confident at drawing a gun out of a holster, bringing it up and hitting a target. The amount of misses were incredible, but like you just said, with time, I started seeing more improvements and correcting a lot of errors that I was making. I think one of the best things I do while training is record everything. I'm very, very, very rough on myself when it comes to criticizing myself and the things I'm doing. I would come back and watch the same video 1,000, a million times. Like it just over and over and over and over. You're just looking for any detail that I can correct on that simple draw. Many people who go to the range or start in this discipline of shooting a pistol or any platform for that matter don't realize how big of a process and all the things that go into drawing a firearm, getting high on the grip, bringing the gun out, immediately pointing the gun at the target, bringing both hands together, getting your master grip correct, lining up the gun up with your dominant eye, adding the gun to your line of sight, not bringing your line of sight to the gun, squeezing the trigger. It's a whole process that takes a lot of repetition, So with time, started getting better, and then I realized, wait a second, I can do more with less. A good friend and mentor of mine, Jay Harris from Champion Defense in South Carolina, got me real used to the training method of using low count drills to improve my shooting. So instead of going to a range and just mag dumping, which you learn nothing from, just putting 5 or 6 rounds at a time in a mag and really, really making every shot count. If it was just a one reload, one drill, or if it was just drawing the gun and bringing the gun up to my line of sight and squeezing one round off and seeing what happened, working on keeping the gun flat, like all that repetition got me to where I'm at right now. And I still to this day feel like there's so much more room for improvement. Then after I got that down, I started implementing more movement while shooting. I hate going to indoor ranges. I just don't believe in them. I think they're useless. And in the real world, both defensive or military scenarios, you're not going to stay in a position. You want to get off the X is what I'm trying to say. So I started implementing movement into all my training scenarios and all my drills. So that way, just not only increasing the difficulty level in my training sessions, but looking for ways to just bring the bar up and make it more difficult for me to train. Because I think if you don't, you just plateau at a level and you'll never grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Now you hit on so many things that I love. Just obviously the repetition, right, which we kind of already mentioned, and then what I call essentially micro drilling, essentially like looking at one specific part of a specific movement and then kind of like fine tuning that until it's perfect or as close to perfect as you can get it, and then kind of really focusing on that for a specific session. And when we look at obstacle course racing, that's the same way I approach training for obstacle course racing, right? Like when I pick an obstacle that I want to get better at, and I start off like just doing that obstacle a whole bunch until I build up enough confidence where I don't have to do it at the beginning of my workout. I can do it at the end of my workout, right? When I'm exhausted. And then as I continue to build, I put it in the middle of a cardio workout, right? So I'm running and then I do the obstacle while with an elevated heart rate, right? So you're creating this progressive system of making things harder as you get better so you can continue to improve. And if anyone checks out my book, New Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing, I talk a lot about that in there in that book. But and you can see I just as you go talk to I just see all the parallels with mastering complex skills and the time and effort and focus it requires. So let's tell me about what does this cost, right? Because in the obstacle course racing world, we always like to complain about prices of things.
It varies. Like you'll find competitions, so they have different levels. Level one, level two. For example, a level two competition where you'll see more high level shooters come in or more maybe sponsors come in. That can go anywhere from $150 to 175. Where your more local competitions, right, can vary from $20 to $35. The level one competitions, and the level one competition, you will see a lot of great shooters, but they're more of your dated your people who work, have normal jobs, 9 to 5. Your daily your common people who just train on their own dime, and then they go test their skills at a local competition. And it's the people who work on a daily basis. And then your level two shooters or above, you might see shooters that just that's all they do all day and they get paid for that. So it varies depending on what you're looking for and what type or level of competition you want to get into.
Yeah, so similar prices for obstacle course racing, except when we go race, I don't have to spend like every time you pull the trigger, that's money going down
Oh
range.
yeah, oh yeah.
You know? So that's a bit rougher. So I think before as people in the obstacle course racing world start complaining, understand how much some other sports are. Um, and some of the shooting actually has started crossing over into obstacle course racing. There was a big talk of having a laser pistol in essentially modern pentathlon, and there's been a couple of obstacle course races that have put it's basically a SIRT pistol. It's a laser pistol where you hit the target and before you have to continue running. So.
And now I'm not very familiar with it, but now they have the tactical games.
Yeah.
The tactical games, those are basically what I would say CrossFit athletes that shoot very, very well. And you'll see a lot of military members in those games as well. Even Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard is in there, competing, and I can name a couple more that compete that are military, still in the military, currently in the military. So it's definitely crossing over to different sports and different disciplines. And it's good to watch, to see how the discipline of shooting has influence, and not only influence, just keeps on evolving into different sports and different disciplines.
I love it. I think it's super cool. For any sort of martial art or shooting, like if you also need like the physical body, and you don't need to be a crazy endurance athlete like me, but like you should be able to move. Like you shouldn't be like overweight and be like, I'm just going to rely on my pistol. It's like, yeah, like you're not gonna be able to get to your pistol because you're gonna be smoked, like
Yeah,
walking to the safe to grab it, or wherever you keep it in your house. So.
yeah, correct. You have to maintain a certain level of physical fitness. At the end of the day, your body's your most important tool. If you can't maintain that, it doesn't matter what pistol you have on you, what platform or what martial art you do. If you can't move yourself, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your gas tank is going to run out, and the guy with the biggest gas tank is gonna win that battle.
Yeah. I talk about it in my newest book, Run If You Can, Destroy If You Must, the Tiga Tactics concept of mindset, skill set, and tool set. So mindset being like your brain and essentially your software. Skill set is like your skills that you bring to a situation, and then tool set being the actual tool, like the gun, the sight, the optic, whatever. And then in the obstacle course racing world, it would be like your shoes, the shorts you're wearing, the socks you're wearing. How important would you rate those in the shooting world? Like how much of it is mindset, how much of it is skill set, like practicing those movements, and then how much you think is like if I give the nicest pistol to like someone who doesn't train very often, are they going to shoot well, etc.
No. 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 So I think mindset is very important, and I would put mindset almost parallel with the equipment, some or even further than the equipment. Reason being, if you don't have the mindset and discipline to put hours into that gun, or for example, a jiu-jitsu fighter, hours into the mat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's teaching you. It doesn't matter if I taught you the most deadliest techniques in that one class. If you don't have the discipline to rep and rep and rep, and the days that you don't want to train, I really don't want to train today. Show up to the mat and put that repetition in when you don't want to do it, then it doesn't matter. It just it's you're wasting your time. On the gun side, on the pistol shooting side, it's the same thing. I can put a $5,000 gun into somebody's hand that's never shot, or maybe shoots once a month, and it's not going to matter. Their performance is not going to increase. They're not going to shoot better. They're not going to. It just doesn't matter. You have to put the time into it, and to put the time into it, you have to have the discipline of saying, on this day or these days, I'm going to train. I'm going to put the time behind the discipline, the time behind the firearm, whatever discipline you're training in. You have to put the time in. Now, do they meet? Do they intersect at a certain point in time? Yes. It's going to come. It's going to come to a period of time where now, because of all the time and practice and reps that you have put in, if you have, for example, in the running world, if you have better running shoes, then it's going to help you perform better because you put the time into it. If I have put thousands and thousands of rounds down range, and now I get a $4,000 pistol, it's going to help me because my basics, my basic fundamentals are there. They're nailed, they're mastered, they're there. Now with better equipment, I can make those basic fundamentals shine brighter or sound louder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. Not surprisingly, you nailed it. Um, and the comments about discipline are spot on. It's people like to talk about motivation. Oh, this guy's super motivating, but this and that, right? Like, but at the end of the day, it's discipline is what it comes down to because most days I'm not interested in running. I'd rather like sit on my couch and like relax. But like I get up, I run or I go train or whatever other kind of complex skill I'm working on. And it has to do with discipline. It doesn't have to do with motivation. It has to do with being able to look at long-term goals and realize that if I skip today, then I might skip tomorrow and I might skip the day after. So, get up and go do it. And the rewards will come when you put in the time and effort over a long period. So,
And I don't know who came up with the saying, but there's a saying that goes, put the work in when nobody's looking,
yeah,
right? I can't count the people who have told me, man, you're always at the range. You're always at the range. Yeah, but what they don't see is when I don't want to be at the range. And when I go to the range and nothing comes out right, but I'm still there putting the time in, right? Squeezing the trigger again and again and again and again, perfecting what I'm doing, finding new ways to improve, adding new movements, adding new processes to improve that one process of bringing the gun out, shooting from one target to another, moving from how to move my feet better. The days that I don't want to do that and I still go, that's what the people don't see. Or, people around you or in your circle who see maybe what you post online. You posted one drill or one event that you look good or whatnot, but they don't see how long you have to, how much time you have to put in to get to that point to where that drill or that movement looks flawless. It takes a lot of discipline, and motivation only lasts so much.
yeah,
Motivation only lasts so much. Coming off a busy week within the military, and sometimes all you want to do is sleep on that Saturday, but you still get up and go on your run. Or I
yeah,
still get up and go to the range and set up everything alone and just start training for 2 hours. When I lived in South Carolina, I would even go train in the rain. In the rain, the range owner looked at me like, "You are crazy." No, I'm disciplined. I'm passionate about this, and I'm a person. And I think you and me will both see eye to eye on this. I'm a person that when I'm passionate about something, I really hyper focus on getting better at that. My wife makes fun of me all the time.
It's
Like,
my life, dude. It's my life.
yeah, she would come into the room and I would be with my timer and you'd hit beep and just from the slide lock position, repping reloads. And I would do 50 reps at a time, 60 reps at a time of just the beep and a reload from the slide lock position, just to get used of seeing that picture of the slide back. Okay, it's time to reload. Let me do this process, right? Is my hand position correct? Is my mag in my reloading hand correct? Am I gripping the mag correctly? Am I tilting the gun correctly? All that into one training session. You don't have to go to the range to train. You can be at your house. Sometimes I put targets around the house and just work on movement and footwork around the house. Not for the tactical world, but more for the competitive world. So how can I get from this target to this target in a quicker manner, or what's the fastest route from this target to this target, so I can get the most amount of points, right? For this stage particularly. So yeah, I'm a person that like I hyper focus on things that I'm passionate about, and it just drives me like discipline, the passion behind the art, like just it's all a combination. And I know I went on a rant here, but it's a combination of things. But the most important thing to make it all work, it's not motivation, it's discipline, because discipline is the one that's going to get you to what you're doing when you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Two comments from that. One, same thing you said, but in a slightly different way. It's the work that you put in the dark that allows you to shine in the spotlight. So I love that. And then two, the moving around your house, one, not only is good for like, because if you're in a self-defense, self-protection situation, that you're going to have to move around your house, but two, like you said, you're practicing for the competition world. There's a famous story of Michael Phelps where he was swimming, and during one of at one of the Olympics, his goggles essentially come off, or like they get like crooked on his face, and he continues to go, and I think he wins that one. I can't remember gold but he got a medal. I can't remember. I assume it was gold because he's got an absurd number of gold medals. And when they interviewed him afterwards, they're like, "Well, how did you like overcome that problem?" And he's like, essentially he's put in so many reps in so many different scenarios that he has seen almost every problem play out that you could possibly have play out. So the fact that he practiced so much, where he essentially you identify all the problems because they've happened to you at one point or another, and you know how to deal with them because again you've dealt with them in training. So when you encounter it in a real life situation or real life competition, whatever it may be, whether it be doing an obstacle and you miss a hold, or you transfer wrong, or you've kind of get stuck at a hold and you don't have momentum, you've experienced it in the gym, so you know how to react to it and you know how to overcome that. All right, we're going to start wrapping it up. Where this is a shorter one, and here's the reason why. Because Juan is going to head over to our Patreon page after this. We're going to do some video, and he's going to teach us some firearm stuff. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to drop that link down below. It is the Combatives Focus Patreon page I've started. It's patreon.com/Greek Combatives. So basically, I've taken a bunch of my martial arts lessons learned and some of my military experience, and I've started a Patreon. I put it behind a paywall because I only want people who are serious about it to like commit. And the paywall is not much. It's like $5 or $10 depending on which version you do. And it's just a way to kind of keep people out who aren't serious about learning skills for self-protection. So before we get going though, Juan, any shout outs you need to give, friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Let's give a shout out to Champion Defense, Jay Harris over there in South Carolina, one of my mentors. John Hedlund, another master shooter in USPSA. He's one of the main reasons I joined into the competition world. Daniel Cruz, another training partner from the shooting world, and great friend of mine. Other than that, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, check out the show notes down below. And one of the things I did not prepare you for this question. One of the things we like to do with guests is tell us something people would be surprised to know about you. So it can be anything, can be completely random. We've had people tell us about their Pokemon collection of cards. What anything you want.
Anything.
Anything.
I'm how do you put this? I'm a geek or nerd, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to like samurai history. I love the history of
Yeah,
samurais.
that's a good one.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good
love
one.
it.
Yeah, that is a good one for you. I didn't know that, but that is a good one for you because we started talking about the show. What is it on Netflix?
Shogun.
Shogun. Yeah, and
Shogun.
you were like explaining the lineage of like which ruler was when which, and I was like, man, this guy knows everything about this topic. Um, yeah, and I started. It was good. I watched. Have I
Yeah, I'm a
finished it? I
big,
can't even
big
remember.
samurai fan.
Yeah, telling me about Nobunaga and all that stuff. And all, yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right, we're gonna get going. Check out the show notes down below again. All right, we're gonna get going. Check out the show notes down below. There'll be links for not only for the Patreon page, but there'll be links for my books. If you want to hear more about some military war stories, you can check out the Ultra OCR Man. It's available on audiobook. And if you want to learn some pistol stuff, whether you're preparing for a shooting course, self-protection course, you want to do tactical games, or you just want to get better at laser pistol, or for pentathlon, modern pentathlon, or you want to just learn some basic skills that I think everyone should have about, if we make good people more formidable, more dangerous, then it makes bad people's jobs a lot harder. You can head over and click on the Patreon page in the show notes down below. Juan, thanks again for coming on, and
Thanks for having me.
we will see you in on video in a little bit.
All right.